Hey YouTube, this is the video where I summarize the series I've been working on and I present to you what is the proper worldview for all of mankind. I am HL. And if you're not watching the series, I'll put it in the description. We will begin by drawing on the last video. The last video was an analysis of morality, and if we define morality as saying what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, then we are presented two options. Either there is morality or there is not morality. And within there is morality, it is either subjective or objective. So there's really three options. And to say that there is no morality is really a form of subjective morality. Because even if you claim that there is no morality, there's a practical morality that's observable in your behavior that is revealed through your practical choices. So you show your preference, and because we can define goodness subjectively as your preference, you have in fact shown that even if you deny the existence of it, you operate by a subjective morality. In the video, we showed how the marketplace of ideas plays with sort of an evolutionary idea in that it creates, from individual subjective moralities, it creates a temporal subjective equilibrium, and that we can take that subjective equilibrium outside of time and create a timeless objective morality, which would be the guiding principle of that. And I mentioned, or if I didn't mention, allow me to mention it now, that this timeless morality, the equilibrium in our own subjectivity, and the untenability of not having any morality lends to four choices. There's untenable morality, what I'll call poor morality or minimal morality, normative or median or average morality, and ideal morality. And the untenable morality is anything that the filter pushes out or anything which cannot exist. A lack of morality cannot exist. Although it can be claimed, it's untenable. Also, a morality which says jumping off a 50-foot cliff is what we should do. Remember, morality is what we think is good or right, and subjectively, that's what we should do. Objectively, it's what we should do as well. So that jumping off the cliff is untenable as well, because nature will filter that out. Remember on the other video, that's the on and off switch. Then there's the poor morality, and this is tenable enough that you don't get kicked off, you don't die from it, but it's an inefficient choice and belief system, and the marketplace of ideas will cause this to slowly fade off. Remember, I gave the example of Greek multi-theism, and that slowly died off because it wasn't really with the truth, and holding those beliefs would inhibit anyone who didn't hold those false beliefs. So not holding false beliefs and holding true beliefs gives you a competitive edge. So then there's normative or average or median, and this is just this is the equilibrium inside of time, and the equilibrium is the normative with respect to that point in time. Now that changes over time. But the ideal is if you take that outside of time you'll see that this is my evolutionary idea that interplays with the marketplace of ideas, that you might say only the strong survive with respect to morals. And what we revealed is, because of the way the marketplace works, just like it works with finances, it works with information in general, and the truth is the most efficient. So outside of time, we'll approach a limit, although we can't get there at the infinities. But we can still look at this limit and say that that is our objective ideal morality, although what I'll now surmise by going back to the human condition video, we can never achieve this ideal morality because of the principle of human irrationality, as well as the law of unobservable phenomena, which says that even if we are aware of this perfect ideal, we wouldn't be able to correctly remember it or correctly implement it. And even if we were able to correctly implement it, we had it on a chart in front of us, we wouldn't be able to correctly ascertain or process that information that's on the chart in front of us. And that's just part of the human condition. And that is the unobservable phenomena that will always exist. In this case, it is the perfect morality, because remember how I said it's limits. Are we ever going to exist at the limits? Well, if we have eternal life, and that would be one possible way to reconcile this, but remember, part of the human condition is that we have a finite lifespan. So we can only reconcile this ability to know truth if we have some sort of eternal life. But if we have some sort of eternal life, that's an inhuman act. So at that point, we're not referencing a proper human worldview. It should be noted, when I talk about nature, a better word for this is not the self. I can talk about the self and not the self. And it would be better to say not the self than to say nature, because not the self includes nature, other human beings, and the possibility of supernatural, or I guess you could say subnatural beings as well. And so those would all fall into what I was referring into the other video as nature. So then the ultimate idea is that you seek perfect harmony with the morality of nature itself, right? And that will create sort of a synergistic effect. You'll get a competitive edge over other people, only instead of a competitive production of economics, it's a competitive ideology. But the question is, if you're going to seek harmony with nature, what is nature's morality? Well, I would hold that the best way, there are two good ways to go about this. The first best way to go about this would be to look at history, because if it's true, if you accept the premise that this sort of morality sort of evolves, then you will see the morality evolving through time to the present, and that would hold that the present ideologies are closest to the truth value compared to old ideologies. In other words, I gave the example of Greek paganism, multitheism. So a more modern ideology than that would be perhaps, I hate to say it, but I will, perhaps Mormonism or something. And we can compare them. I hate to bring that one up because they have a lot of similarities, actually. I think the Mormons believe in multiple gods, but y'all can go research that on your own. The point I'm trying to say is that the major religions around the world that are still held as tenable have a competitive edge relative to the other two options, which is making something up on your own or going with something that has been shown untenable. So the argument I'm making here is a rather conservative argument, a religiously conservative argument, that you do one of two things. Either you remain agnostic, because remember, according to the human condition, we must be agnostic. Even if we become theistic, unless that particular branch of theism somehow enables us to have true knowledge, which there are those out there that claim that you can have true knowledge. But unless they make that claim, you must be an agnostic theist. So if I were to become, let's say, a Mayan, I was going to go with the Mayan religion. They have lots of traditions and gods, and you worship them and all this. But in the Mayan tradition, it never addresses the ability of a person, the epistemological problem of knowledge. It never addresses the ability of a person to know objective truth. Now, there are several religions around the world which do address this problem. And I would say either remain agnostic, or if you're going to become a theist, and then we get into comparative religion, okay, I'm going to be a theist, but which religion? I would say out of those, make it one of the ones that say that you can know the truth value and that their religion is responsible for the truth value. Because otherwise, it seems to me that if they don't claim to be true, and if they don't claim that you can know truth, it seems to me that it would be a setback rather than a competitive edge over agnosticism. Remember, I argue that there's ultimately only one form of information, that of revelation, which is also known variously as intuition, eureka. There are various terms for it. And that there is a problem, a philosophical problem that many people know about between I have this consciousness and I have this reality, and I have no logical reason to think that they should interact, but they do. And you have two responses to this. You can either say, well, I don't know how they interact, agnosticism, a perfectly justifiable position. Or you can say, well, I do know. And the only tenable way to say I do know is on the basis of revelation. And so this revelation must come in one of two ways. Either a personal revelation or a revelation through some sort of surrogate, such as a prophet or a pre-existing religion. So that's my ultimate analysis of the worldview, y'all. And if we're going sort of on a conservative to liberal type of thing, I would say go anywhere in between. Remember, I defined a range. Just make sure that your conservative and your liberal is still somewhere between poor and ideal, and that you don't hold an untenable position. If we're going on sort of if we want to analyze which religious worldview, I would say either remain agnostic or weakly atheistic, or become a strong theist, but only become a strong theist if the religion you choose claims that it enables you to know objective truth, and that objective truth is itself the religion. Because if you can know objective truth, but the religion's not the truth, you see how there's a problem there. Because how do you know that it's true that you can know the truth? So it must have both claims. In fact, there are several other things we can do when we start analyzing comparative religion, and that will likely be the next few videos I do. Because if we're going with this premise that it's more likely due to the nature of the marketplace of ideas and the evolution of morality, if you buy those premises, then you'll also buy the conservative argument that it is more likely that a pre-existing religion is true than it is likely that you can invent a true religion. And so if you buy that argument and you get rid of you inventing it, it's left to what is there out in the world, which is a finite set. So then we get into the realm of comparative religion. I may do a few of those videos, and we'll just go through the big religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, obviously Christianity, maybe Islam, Mormonism, Judaism, and we'll just go down the list and sort of compare them. And yeah, maybe that's what I'll do next. All right, take care, YouTube.